Hello everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Agile Monetization in the Enterprise 5G World, sponsored by MDS Global. Before we begin, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. On the left-hand side of your screen is the Q&A. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can type your question into the Q&A box and submit them to our speakers. All questions will be saved, so if we don't get back to answer you, we may follow up via email. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets you can use. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the yellow Help widget. Here you can find answers to common questions. A copy of today's slide deck is available for download in the green Resource List widget. Towards the end of today's presentation, please complete the survey that is open on your screen. The survey will only take 1 minute to complete, and your feedback is extremely helpful. An on-demand version of the webcast will be available about 1 day after the event and can be accessed using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier today. I'd now like to turn over the event to Telecoms.com Intelligence Manager Wei Shi. Wei?
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for the intro, and a warm welcome from me to this Telecoms.com webinar sponsored by MDS Global. I'm Wei Shi from Telecoms.com Intelligence, and I'll be your host for today. As you can see on your screen, today we are going to talk about agile monetization in the enterprise 5G world. And the telecoms industry can take some pride in how fast the latest generation of mobile technology has been adopted since the first commercial 5G networks were switched on 2.5 years ago. However, not all the high promises that came with 5G have been delivered on yet, in particular those for the enterprise market, which 5G operators have banked high hopes on. One of the leading barriers is the mismatch between operators' existing business support system, or BSS, and the new business needs of enterprise customers in the 5G era. There are significant differences between the consumer market, which most telcos have been used to serving, and the enterprise market, which is relatively new to most telcos. In addition to the, let's say, the different types of services demanded by enterprises, to compare with the consumer market, they also require higher level of customization, shorter time to market for new services, and are less tolerant of failures. So to create and then capture the enterprise opportunities for 5G, will need operators to modernize their BSS to enable, among other things, a high degree of flexibility and customization for both the service providers themselves and for their customers, so as to ride on 5G's strong virtualization and software centricity nature. I don't think there is any controversy in these principles, but how to get there is what we'll spend the rest of this webinar discussing. And today, I'm joined by 3 excellent speakers who are also hands-on practitioner experts from MDS Global. Steve Bowen is MDS Global's CEO, and he's joined by his colleagues Alan Forbes, who's the Business Solutions Director, and Victoria Sharp, who's MDS Global's sales manager. In the next 45 minutes or so, Steve, Victoria, and Alan will share with us their insights on a number of key topics. These include the enterprise 5G opportunity, why a consumer-oriented BSS stack isn't necessarily the best solution for the enterprise market, and why digital transformation projects often fail, and for that matter, what is the alternative to digital transformation. Before I hand over to our speakers, I'd like to repeat what my colleague Catherine said at the beginning. So we encourage our audience to submit your questions throughout the session, and we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. We also like to make our webinars more interactive, so we'll have a couple of poll questions during the session. I encourage you to answer them. The results will be displayed instantly and they will provide our speakers with valuable context for the subsequent sections of their presentations. So now, without further ado, I'm handing over to Steve and his team to introduce themselves, present the content, and then answer your questions. Steve, over to you.
Thank you very much, Wei. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. Wei has given quite a good introduction to what we're going to talk about today. We're going to call it Agile Monetization in the Enterprise 5G world. Wei introduced a number of concepts just recently, and I think I'm going to sort of reiterate quite a few of them before we crack into the detail. So I just wanted to sort of revisit some of those points. I mean, we think certainly from our perspective, the business market promises the greatest return on investment opportunity in the market. A lot of CSPs, however, are operating sort of legacy BSS stacks that have been honed to a sort of very much a consumer market. And with those stacks, that they're going to struggle to support and service those new B2B offerings, especially those that are going to be enabled by 5G and IoT. And as a consequence, their ability to serve their customers effectively is going to be curtailed. Now, some of those CSPs are going to embark on some long and lengthy, complex digital transformation projects in order to sort of bolt on some of those B2B capabilities to their existing 5G stack. However, you know, 5G is out there offering fast speed, it's offering agility, it's offering security, and the ability to get services out into the market quickly. And in just the same context, businesses are going to need to get their stacks, their B2B stacks up and running really, really quickly so they can capitalize on the market that's evolving in front of their eyes. And the problem there is that these digital transformation projects are long and they're complex and therefore probably not the best approach to take when we're trying to get into a market very, very quickly. And bearing in mind, it's a market that is very fluid at the moment, and we don't really know where it's going to go one way or the other. So that sort of 18-month, 2-year or 3-year digital transformation program, you may well end up with something that isn't fit for purpose at the end of that journey. We've got to get something up quickly. We've got to test the proposition, proof of concept, whatever you want to call it, and then move with what we learn and move quickly. The other thing to consider also is that enterprise markets are very different from consumer markets because, you know, the sales are very complex. You know, in the consumer market, one product is relevant for pretty much every customer they're serving. In a B2B market, products are very customized. They're very unique to a particular enterprise customer and involves complex and often difficult negotiating around the prices. And the catalogs needing to support all the various products need to be very flexible. Secondly, as I've said, these digital transformation journeys, they are complex. And as a consequence, they're very likely to overrun, be over budget, or in the worst case scenario, they fail completely, in which case, you know, you're no further forward than you were at the beginning. So what the team are going to talk to you about today is why we believe actually if we're going to operate effectively in this new 5G world in a B2B space, we're going to need almost certainly a second stack that we can spin up really, really quickly, get that proof of concept established, get some learnings, and then move forward at pace, scaling into the markets that we want to operate in. So that's the context for today's presentation. I believe we've got the first poll question coming up next, so I'm going to hand over to Wei to drive that process. Thank you, Wei.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, indeed. So before we dive into the details of BSS, let's take a look at the market and set the scene. So our first poll is about B2B services you are going to bring to the market. So which B2B services do you plan to grow in the short term? So would it be 5G services or IoT or fixed line services or non-telco services, or you don't have a plan to offer B2B services? So I give the audience a few seconds to make your choice, and after that, please press the submit button, and we'll take a look at the results in a couple of seconds. Okay, let's take a look. So, wow, the distribution is not even at all. So the clear winner is 5G services. I don't think if it's any surprise to our speakers, but here we go. So Victoria, over to you. I hope these results are helpful.
Thank you, Wei. Indeed, this matches exactly the picture that we're seeing from our customers and prospects. 5G brings you so many opportunities that it's a no-brainer to go into that area, isn't it? So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victoria Sharp. I'm sales manager at MDS Global. The advent of 5G networks represents a significant catalyst for change in telecom industry, and it opens doors to new, absolutely unprecedented B2B, IoT, and non-telco revenue generation opportunities for operators. So let's have a look at why serving the enterprise market requires both technical and cultural changes, and why you can't effectively serve the enterprise market purely from a consumer-oriented stack. So first of all, as Steve has mentioned, enterprise market differs greatly from the consumer one. It is very complex and solution-based. Sales are often negotiated and customized on a case-by-case basis. It involves multiple stakeholders and sophisticated customer hierarchies. No two sales are essentially the same. And when we're talking about millions and millions of B2B customers, scale of complexity becomes very challenging. And usually it requires just a separate, agile, and scalable and flexible BSS stack to be able to handle it. Secondly, in an increasingly digital world, B2B customers require more and more the same level of real-time self-serve experiences that have been available to consumers for some time now, but they have never been previously accessible for the B2B world. Let's also not forget about the complexity of enterprise solution-based services compared to fairly standard consumer ones. Operators that serve the enterprise market today are already struggling to manage the complexity of traditional enterprise products. And new 5G, IoT, and non-telco services, they all will only increase this complexity, as traditional B2B BSS stacks were never designed with the required level of agility and flexibility in mind. But it's not all just about a technical change. We think that 5G will require operators to adopt a fundamentally new approach to doing business if they want to unlock new revenue streams from unexplored markets. And in order to do so successfully, I think they will need to develop so-called co-creative relationships with their enterprise customers to promote their enterprise customers to be creating services with them, and establish what we call business curators. So business curators are those stakeholders within the target market who have a deep understanding of the industry, and they can help CSPs to create the right solutions that will appeal to the businesses within that sector, that will match their needs and meet their operational requirements. So for all these reasons, more and more operators are launching digital transformation projects to add B2B capabilities to their consumer-oriented stacks, creating a converged solution and digitizing services for all sectors. Their overall goal may be to have a single stack for both B2B and B2C customers, but this approach might not always work for the B2B world, given the complexity of B2B sales. So As we discussed earlier, operators hoping to take advantage of new enterprise 5G opportunities are embarking onto the digital transformation journeys. And later during the presentation, my colleague Alan will give you a few real-life examples of some new interesting 5G use cases and bring this all a bit more to life. But however, 5G is not the only reason for digital transformation. So those operators with no immediate plans to step into the 5G world and who are just continuing to operate their existing 4G networks and 3G networks, they might also want to transform their BSS right now in order to improve their operational efficiency, to reduce costs, to become more agile, and to build stronger customer relationships and to improve their customer experience. And of course, once 5G arrives, their BSS platform needs to be ready to support these new enterprise opportunities. And they need to have in place a BSS stack that's flexible enough to support the complexity of the enterprise sales environment. We see that traditional BSS stacks are very often preventing operators from fostering innovation as such. They typically can't adapt to the fast-changing environment. I think this is because they were designed to support a range of services that were defined over much longer product life cycles, unlike the 5G services. And sometimes those old BSS stacks make it almost impossible for CSPs to test out new services, new concepts, new ideas, because it can have an adverse effect on the live environment and on the live established customer base, and they can't risk that. So I think this is going to be a huge problem for operators who want to launch new 5G services and who want to enter the world of these co-creative relationships with the enterprise customers. But again, changes are required not just for future 5G services support. There are plenty of lucrative enterprise opportunities that are powered by 4G nowadays that operators can be simply missing out on right now due to their lack of agility. And it's taken these operators too long to bring these services to market, which means that their window of new revenue opportunity may just pass. So as we all know, BSS digital transformations right now are a top priority for many operators. But these projects can be absolutely painful. They have a habit of taking too long, costing too much, and even failing to deliver altogether. And there are lots of examples of BSS digital transformation failures, but one that you can see on your screen that I want to highlight is the deal that all of you must have read about in the news a few years ago. I'm talking about $1 billion deal signed for 11 countries by Dutch-based operator VEON. VEON is serving around 250 million subscribers in Russia and various emerging markets. So this massive project was abandoned in 2019, just 3 years after it was commissioned, with the vendor required to pay some $350 million in compensation. So we can see that the scale of a disaster can be enormous. I'd like to add that digital transformation projects can waste a lot of money before they even get started. According to NTT, around 26% of IT teams' time was effectively wasted just laying the groundwork, the foundation for digital transformation projects. And on average, it costs a UK enterprise about £2.1 million a year. Quite a huge amount of money as well to waste. Some reports claim that as many as 68% of operators have regarded their large-scale BSS transformation projects as failures. $20 million is a common cost of the failure, and about 10% of the failed projects carried costs of more than $100 million. So there seems to be a direct correlation between project size and project success. So the bigger the project, the more likely it is to fail. And we will come on shortly to show you how all this lost money can be better spent. Right, so with digital transformation being such an important program for operators, I think it's useful to consider what can go wrong with these projects and why they have a high propensity to fail. So one of the top reasons is that existing systems, processes, and the underlying culture are very rigid and inflexible, and they can't support new complex services, even after they are transformed. And this is particularly true for consumer-oriented operators who are trying to add B2B capabilities to their services portfolio. Simply because if they don't truly understand enterprise culture, it's highly likely that their digital transformation will be unsuccessful. Another common reason for failure is a problem with the underlying strategy. So they may be trying to shoehorn old school business models into a new digital environment, rather than putting in place a new agile, flexible BSS stack that is capable of taking on the complexity. And another reason is poor alignment between marketing, IT, and other departments, and the lack of agreement overall within the organization about what the project goals are and which issues should be prioritized. And finally, I would say, as in any project, poor communication between business and IT, lack of governance, and overall employee resistance can lead to project failure. So I would say digital business transformations should be handled very carefully and from all possible angles of the organization. And with this, I'm handing over to my colleague, Alan, who is our Director of Business Solutions. But prior to Alan starting, off to you, Wei, I think we have another poll question upcoming. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Yes, we're going to have our second poll, and this is about BSS digital transformation. And so the question is asking whether you've currently undertaken, or you've already undertaken, or you are going to do a BSS digital transformation program to enable you to offer or improve your B2B services. If you think yes, then please choose whether it's already been completed, or it's still underway, or you are going to launch it shortly. And if you answer no, then please choose whether you have started but abandoned it afterwards, or you are not going to start it at all. So I'll give the audience, again, some time to make your choices. And then please press the submit button afterwards. All right, 2 more seconds, and we are going to take a look at the results. Okay, so the results are in. So the majority of the respondents, 70% of them, are saying they are their digital transformation project is underway. So I don't know whether that's surprising or not, but back to the speakers. Alan, over to you.
Hello, Wei, thank you very much. I think that it was slightly surprising on the poll results. I would have expected most people to be underway, and it's very enlightening to see that there was some votes around abandoning the process once it's gone ahead. So it'd be interesting to understand how they restart such a process. But yeah, very interesting. So my name's Alan Forbes, and I am the Business Solutions Director within MDS Global. And if large-scale digital transformation projects are prone to failure or delay, then what is the solution? So if your plan is to consolidate your stacks or add B2B capabilities to an existing B2C stack, I would say don't do it. Instead, you need to consider a separate clean stack for B2B services. Let's not become bogged down in the legacy weeds. We're on for a full digital journey to attract new customers and retain existing ones. So the goal of this new stack is to be fully automated end-to-end with an open integration across the footprint. And this is where something like the TMF APIs and ODA can help. It should include self-service functionality to enable the customer to have control, which in turn improves the customer experience. And we're aiming for a low CapEx solution. Today's technological advances mean it is possible to invest less and gain more, and you will know the project outcome quicker and not wait for a long drawn-out project to stall or even fail. This new digital stack will enable you to try out new initiatives. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't impact existing services or your established base, so it protects your existing revenues. Of course, this new stack must be able to meet the ultimate end goal of the digital transformation journey and become the new B2B platform. Once this stack is up and running and delivering results, you can start migrating your existing base and services over to the new environment at a pace that suits your business. It's been important for me to also to understand and recognize the B2B domain is very different compared to a consumer or a wholesale sector. So to maximize your market potential, it's important that you work with partners who have a strong understanding of the needs to serve the enterprise business sector, experience from both a technical and a cultural viewpoint. Creating a new stack is also a great approach if you want to launch a new sub-brand or reinvent yourself. This is an alternative way to capture market share. McKinsey conducted a research into the benefits of setting up what they called a digital attacker brand, which employs a digital customer journey for marketing, onboarding, activation, and service. The research found that operators that use a separate stack for their new sub-brand gained 23% more subscribers within the first year of launch. And 70% of those were completely new customers. So we are not cannibalizing your own base. So at MDS, we spend a lot of time looking into the future of the B2B sector, particularly the BSS and how that needs to change. So what's new? Well, we know 5G and IoT are driving new catalog of services, and thanks for your response earlier, which has confirmed that overwhelmingly. And the 5G capabilities such as dedicated connections, quality of service, and network slices underpin business services in particular. This has created a tipping point for many providers to see how you manage, monetize, and benefit from these new, largely non-telco type services. Often providers have been looking to enhance their B2B stack, and now the new services create a business driver to do so. But what's working? What's been working? Well, we must never forget that the new services are building on your current, very profitable B2B sector. So the new services should complement the existing services. Therefore, you must be able to converge a bundle of existing and new products, which are all charged appropriately, but converge for the customer. And what's wanted? Well, from a customer point of view, more control. So that is things like enhanced self-service, availability of data, and notifications. These are a normal part of a process for a consumer sector. So why is it not yet the way for your B2B customers? Why can I manage my own personal account online via an app, but not my business account? So then, therefore, what is needed? Well, the reason the B2B sector lags behind the consumer sector in a digital point of view is complexity. The businesses negotiate tariffs. They have complex processes and approvals. Of course, they have a complex customer and service structures. For example, what has to happen for one business subscriber may have to happen for 1,000 business subscribers at the same time in the same hierarchy. Therefore, supporting in-life changes and complex processes plus the end-to-end integration needed with all the elements is complicated. It's another reason to have a separate B2B stack. And what is going to be a game changer? Well, I feel real time, and it's something I've been saying for maybe the last 2 years, but real time really will make a big difference to the enterprise domain and its experience. And it's 2 years ago, I felt it was true, it's still true today. For example, viewing balances on my phone app, messages saying that I'm 80% of my credit limit, ability to switch services on or off, or to upsell. Why do some B2B customers have to wait until the end of the day, the end of the week, or even the month to know what their spend? How do they know their balance, or if their balance is running low, or if their shared data bundle is different? Or how do they know if their CEO is about to run out of data just before a business trip? Bringing together end-to-end automation, bundled services, self-management, and make it all real-time is something providers can use to enhance the business customers' experience and take advantage of the enterprise opportunity growth. Right, this is a busy slide, I know, but I'll try and explain it quite quickly and simply. And I wanted to use an example to bring some points to life. The overall message here is, while the network side of supporting new services is complicated, it's easy to lose sight or even maybe dumb down the business support interactions needed in a multi-service, multi-actor, multi-network operating environment. In my scenario, it's relatable to lots of other 5G and IoT type services. So I'll focus on the processes and the monetization, complexity, and assurance needed to support these. In my example, the CSP is launching a building alarm security system with assured connectivity. If the power and the fixed connection go out, 5G will be used to provide connectivity. And the product is going to be sold to an enterprise customer who is then going to, the enterprise customer we called Circuit Board, a fictional company, who's then selling that onto their retail customer. So in the first box, the product bundle shows you need to be able to bundle services, perhaps with additional add-ons as well, like SLAs or upsells as optional extras. In this example, we have hardware provided by a partner, a 5G assurance from the CSP's own network, and a monitoring system from another partner. So essentially, we're managing a complex bundle with various suppliers and charging models. Next, on the second box, we have to sell that to the enterprise. The enterprise business is effectively acting as a wholesaler who's going to retail the product to their customers. The price is negotiated, so not off the shelf, and it's sold as a bundle, but the charging parameters are based on the service component. For example, a couple of examples there, the outage usage charge when the outage happens, or the interaction with the monitoring service, which is based on a very different set of charging parameters. And if we look at what actually happens in life, the processing shows a scenario where the power goes out, and that impacts the fixed and Wi-Fi service. So in order to keep your service, your alarm service alive, the 5G slice becomes active and starts to process data. Our customer is paying a wholesale takeover rate per month, but when 5G service is used, then there's a usage charge per hour for service. Once the power and fixed connectivity are restored, then the 5G service returns to takeover mode, and the usage charge is collected for applying to the account, and the world goes back to normal. But on the last box, the revenue management, following an outage, the CSP needs to be able to explain what is charged and why. So online notifications, self-serve, visibility of what happened is crucial to let our business customer know what is happening and what charges are going to be, so that they can manage their end customer. It's easy to forget at the end of all of this process, there is a charge for this service, and to be able to make it clear through self-serve or on an invoice what the charge is and why it's being charged. You can only do this if you're collecting the right data and the right data is explained. Also consider the end-to-end assurance of such a scenario, which is a complex reconciliation based on actors and systems, especially if you think how many new service types and actors could be introduced across all of the 5G services. And it's all about timing. Increased competition from new providers, MVNOs, over-the-top providers and others means that it's essential to bring your product to market as soon as possible. You snooze, you lose. So getting started with a quick implementation brings the new product to market in time to beat the competition. Leave the legacy environment to continue to support all existing services. Even to change a legacy solution may have many wider implications and increase your risk for your existing business. And your legacy is likely to have a long list of system changes already in the queue to serve the business as usual needs. Implementing a new quick start will enable a go-to-market in a quick time frame. Therefore, a clean solution is created, which is integrated to enable new offers quickly to the customer. And it's important to say, I think, whilst this is a quick start approach and simple to implement and ready to go quickly, it must not lack functionality. It must not lack capability, scalability, or security. This is just the first step in your digital journey. But as new products are launched and gain a foothold, then the solution will need to grow up in terms of how the service is seen by the end customer. The customer may be delighted with the new service, but it will want to bring the new offers together with those already under contract. That is why it is essential to make sure your new stack brings the capability to model complex B2B products. The solutions product catalog needs to provide a core link between the old and the new, and is able to define completely different services, tariffs, and products to bundle these together. The BSS enables new and old products to be assigned to a customer's hierarchy, to map to the customer structure, to match the customer's organization in terms of both service and charging. Now, at different stages of the overall journey to digital, and based on the capabilities of the existing stack, you as a service provider may wish to converge some services onto the new stack. You might want to converge some onto the older stack, or have a hybrid model based on the product and customer type. This is very much a business decision. No one size fits all here. Managing the enterprise sector is complicated, and it's individual to the enterprise, and it's crucial to keep the enterprise customer happy. Therefore, looking at a new solution which can adapt with agility to address multiple use case scenarios on a single platform is very important. And every customer, every enterprise customer feels unique and wants to see their business being treated as an individual entity to get the right interaction or to improve customer satisfaction. So that means understanding the individuality of the enterprise business and putting in place a blend of systematic and personal interaction. But you as a service provider, it's your brand and your differentiation which will create space for the ability to grow in your chosen sector. So the solution is here to make sure the complexity of the new and the old scenarios can be met, and that business operations continue smoothly and to your needs. At MDS, we are experts in creating and running the business configuration you need to meet your demands and to please your enterprise customers, and we are here to serve your needs. Our business operations service is a simple way to get started. This allows an existing business to run uninterrupted without diverting key IT resources to the new stack, and allows a new world to take shape. And over time, the transition to a full digital stack can take place. This is what makes MDS Global's BSS a great approach to digital transformation, our unrivaled understanding of the enterprise market, coupled with our low-cost, low-risk deployment approach enables service providers to launch new initiatives quickly and to serve the existing highly profitable services. I think that's me, Wei.
Great. Thank you, Alan. And thanks, Victoria and Steve, before Alan presented. So now I think it's time we should take some questions. I've got quite a few questions already came in while the three of you were presenting, but we still have time, so please keep sending the questions in. So now, before we start answering the questions, I need to ask the speakers to say hello to the audience so the system can pick up your voice and then your image. So Alan, please stay with us and say hello to the audience again.
Hello again. I hope you're still with me.
Victoria, please.
Hi, it's Victoria.
Okay. Steve, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay, great. Steve, okay, great. Your camera is on again. So I think we are all on the screen. All right, so let's start with the first question. I think this is from a customer who's already started their digital transformation journey. So the question goes, why not just stick with your incumbent provider? Because they are planning a phased approach to digital transformation anyway. So any one of you wants to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take that one way. I mean, look, of course there's nothing to stop you going with your incumbent provider. I mean, I suppose the first question is, has the incumbent got a B2B enabled product that it's able to spin up for you? I think by the very nature of using the word a phased approach suggests already we're talking about a time frame that's probably inconsistent with the agile adjective that we used at the beginning of the business. Phased already smacks of multiple releases over possibly 6, 12, 18 months. And each phase is only going to deliver part of the solution. I think the approach of establishing a second BSS stack is what we're sort of promising, or what we're suggesting. Now, that stack, if that stack comes from your incumbent, fine. The chances are that it won't. And actually what you'll need to do is go out into the market and find a B2B stack that can be delivered quickly, can be delivered to offer you a proof of concept very quickly and allow you to experiment with where you want to go. And then ultimately, once you've decided, playing around with that very quickly implemented stack, once you've played around with it and understand where you want to go, then to scale extremely quickly to take advantage of what you've learned. So I think nothing to stop you going with the incumbent. I think you've just got to ask the questions. Is their plan agile? Is phased approach really going to deliver something quickly? Is the stack that is being proposed genuinely B2B enabled and genuinely capable of addressing the complexities of 5G, of enterprise, of IoT? That's fundamentally how I'd answer that question.
Thank you, Steve. Alan, do you have something to add, as you talked about the staged approach as well?
I would only say that we see a lot of people taking a different approach, and we see a lot of projects that are overrunning, that are taking way too long to become live. And the competing factor to that is there's lots of new 5G services and IoT services being launched. And so you're either missing the boat or you're not taking advantage of that capability while you're running this long-term project. And I'm not saying that all incumbents are in that situation, but it's something we do see quite often.
Thank you, Alan. So the next question says, you mentioned that the enterprises feeling, each of them is feeling that they're unique and wanting their own processes. But how far can you go with this scenario, this approach? I think Victoria and Steve, you both talked about sort of the sales to enterprise market is quite different because each customer is different. So can either of you start taking this question?
I think I was going to, if it's all right, I'll maybe kick off with that, and then would that be okay?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. Alan.
So it's just as a point I feel quite strongly about, and I see a lot of evidence to back it up. And of course, not every enterprise can be completely unique, so there's a balance to get right. But if you've got a 10,000 subscription enterprise who are buying a whole range of different services from you, they will want their purchasing process, their in-life changes to match their own approvals. So, and they'll also want to be able to split the charges accordingly and monitor those charges accordingly. So it's very important to be able to set up workflows and processes that will match their business. And that's a way that you engage with them and it works very well. I don't think you want to do that with every single customer, but there is a balance to be made, and maybe it's even done by groups of types of customers. That's my thought here.
Thanks, Alan. Victoria, Steve, do you want to add something?
No, I mean, I think just to build on what Alan says, every business customer typically, the logical conclusion of Alan's statement is that you can set up every single business customer uniquely. That means that you've got the capability in the product to have, a complex hierarchy per customer, a catalog of products and services aligned with each customer, and a set of workflows that are aligned with the business processes that the customer wants to have supported. So fundamentally, if you've chosen the right BSS stack that's very much been built around those premises, then the answer to the question is that you should be able to drive each customer to its own unique model, operating model within your stack. I think Alan rightly says that you've got to strike a balance there, and what you might end up defining is a set of customer types. Whether it be large customer where you've got more than 1,000 employees, medium and small, or whether you call them high complexity, medium complexity, or simple complexity. You'll probably get a balance where you've got some very specific customers who you want to give a very, very unique service to, but then the rest of your customers might be classified by a customer type, and each customer type has a certain configuration in the system, which is used as a basic template. But the logic is that you could take it all the way down to every single customer having a unique footprint in your system.
Thanks, Steve. Victoria, do you want to add something?
No, I think gentlemen have covered this.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next question. So I would be interested to understand how different this approach would look for a wholesale business that is also on a digital transformation journey into the new 5G world. And so who would want to take the lead in taking this question?
I don't mind. I'll kick off if that's all right.
Please go ahead, Alan.
Yeah. The digital transformation process, we've used the term very many times, is all about moving. For me, it's all about moving towards the customer and giving control to the customer. So on the wholesale side of business, depending on whether that is full wholesale or resellers or dealers, it's about enabling that process to go simpler and easier. And so I think the process maybe doesn't change too much because we're setting up a product, we're setting up new services, but it's all to make your end customer that little bit easier. So I think there's maybe less complexity to the question previous, which is individual items, because you have presumably a smaller number of businesses, if I understand the question correct. But to me, there's not a huge difference in how we manage it, and it does illustrate another actor in this whole process, which is the wholesale environment. We have to consider all of those when launching the new 5G services.
Thanks, Alan. Steve or Victoria, you want to add something?
I mean, it's Alan's sort of hit the nail on the head. I mean, there isn't that much difference. You know, we've got an example of an existing customer that has their own enterprise business customers, and they support it on the stack that we've provided them with, and they also support quite an extensive dealer network. So in both instances, in some instances they're acting as a direct, and in other instances they're acting almost as a wholesaler into a reseller network. So I don't think the approach needs to be significantly different. Alan's right, the numbers are probably going to be fewer, but the challenges are exactly the same whether you're direct or reselling to the end market.
Thank you. And Victoria?
Yeah, and I think the key goal would anyway, as for B2B or for wholesale or B2B2X business, it would be to improve the customer experience for the end customers and end users. So the approach would essentially be the same. And I think, especially in the 5G situation, we do need to give an opportunity to our customers to kick this off pretty quickly. They don't have an opportunity to lose the momentum, otherwise the revenue will be just gone into the pockets of their competitors. So essentially, the approach would be the same.
Thank you all. I'm afraid we only have time for one final question, but as my colleague Catherine said at the beginning, so all the questions you sent in are saved on the system. So although we're not able to answer all of them now, Steve and his team will be able to come back to you offline after the event. So we now come to the final question for this session. If you take the approach suggested in your presentations, just how quickly would you get up and running? So who would like to take the lead?
Can I take this away, please?
Yes, please, Victoria.
Thank you. So essentially, you can be up and running with a minimum viable product in just about 12 weeks. So we have an out-of-the-box approach, and our goal is to give you an opportunity to very quickly achieve the business readiness, to almost fast-track it, and to give you a chance to be able to test out new business models, initiatives, new ideas, and to disrupt the market right now and not to lose the moment. And then once you've proven the concept, you know that it works for you, you've tested the system enough and you're comfortable with it, you can expand rapidly through a number of additional functionality or additional integrations. We will make sure that the overall system is just fully matching your underlying ecosystem. So 12 weeks and your MVP will be live and run.
Thank you, Victoria. That's a quite straightforward answer. So Steve and Alan, do you want to add something?
I think what Victoria is describing is what we would call the agile approach to delivery. It's a couple of sprints to get the environment spun up, and I think working with the customer to understand the minimum viable product is really important. But minimum viable is what it says. It's minimum viable because what we're about in once that's implemented is about testing where you want to go. This 5G world and IoT world that we're in is changing all the time. And so we need to test some of the fundamentals that we want to go to market with. So it's testing them, it's proving them, it's changing them if they're not delivering what you think or what you thought you were going to expect to be delivered. So it's changing them, and then very quickly, once you've got that footprint that you feel now supports where you want to go, is to then scale it from there very quickly.
Thank you, Steve. Alan, do you have something to add?
I think just to sort of, I guess, repeat maybe the point is, once that system's there, then the principle is that then you launch new services on it. So you do the 12-week time frame, you have it. But it's then very quickly to add on a new service, and having the configuration and the adaptability and the agility to do that. It's given you that opportunity to be quick to market with new products. So I think that's really a key point for me.
Thank you very much. I see new questions still coming in, but I'm afraid we're running out of time. But don't worry, as I said earlier, the questions are saved. So Steve and his team will be able to come back to you via email. With that, we are concluding today's session. And thanks to all the speakers, and thanks to all the members in the audience for joining this telecoms.com webinar. I look forward to welcoming you to another webinar soon. But before that, until next time, goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.